Welcome to 2 Hours No Traffic, a New York, Philadelphia sports podcast. It is May 24th. I am your host, Ben Harris. He's Philly Brandon. And both our teams are really looking forward to the offseason right now.
I'm glad the season's. I don't know. I'm not glad the season's over. Who the hell am I kidding? I don't know. This offseason for you carries a lot of promise. A lot of it can only get better from here. I'm staring down the barrel of what you went through about 4 months ago. So I'm not having a good time at the moment.
Yeah, it's wild. Every time I think that James Harden is just going to walk back to Philly and you guys are going to give him some hefty-ass contract, I see another report that, like, him to the Rockets is almost just a done deal at this point. I see Pat Bev talking on his podcast saying, like, he wants to join the Rockets and he wants to reunite with Harden. Those guys played together in Houston years ago. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's funny. The one thing that you can be optimistic about as a Sixers fan, aside from having the MVP, which is pretty cool to say the MVP is on the squad, is you have a young budding star in Tyrese Maxey who only looks to be getting better. So that's nice. Those two things are nice. But to go all in for James Harden and come out empty, it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, it's one you're familiar with yourself. It's, when you push, and this is the second time the Sixers have kind of pushed all their chips to the middle of the table. You and I were talking off air. I sent you an awesome Jimmy Butler interview about why things didn't work out in Philly and, just kind of the loser culture that does kind of exist in that building. But you got to remember, like, we pushed all of our chips in to get Tobias, Jimmy, JJ, Ben, Joel. So, like, we thought that was it. And then there was a couple years of good, not great. And then James Harden came around, and then we thought we pushed all our chips in again. And we still, no matter what, whether it's Al Horford and Josh Richardson or it's James Harden and Joel Embiid, it's the second round no matter how you slice it. So, it is a little bit disheartening to think you got, two Hall of Famers on the same squad and to still not be able to come out with anything. But I'm of the opinion that bringing James Harden back isn't the answer. It's in the world where he does a 2-year deal, sure, maybe. But the 4 years, $200 million that it sounds like Houston's going to give him, that it sounds like he wants, I mean, that's organizational suicide at that point.
Not to mention Houston's trying to poach one of the Nets' better players in Cam Johnson. We'll get to that. So I guess this is a sort of a two-part question, but the first part I think is very funny. I saw Kyrie Irving's name being floated around. He put out an IG Live recently that he hasn't made a decision yet in regards to free agency. Mm-hmm. What would you think if the Sixers brought in the troubled point guard, shooting guard, combo guard, whatever you want to call him? And I say troubled because trouble follows him in the last 2 franchises he's been to. So that's a fact.
I think the fan base would be incredibly angry about it. I don't see a world where it happens. I mean, you and I went over it when you sent me that report. The guy who posted it, Vin, the Insider, he's one of those guys that just kind of throws shit at the wall and sees what sticks. Like, his Twitter bio is that he called the Bryce Harper deal. He called the Carson Wentz deal. He called all these deals. But yeah, I mean, sure, if you make 200 wild suggestions and 3 of them are right, yeah, you're going to break some news here or there, but you're also wrong way more often. And that whole report was look for Philly to try and pull LeBron and Kyrie, and they don't have the money. I mean, I'll put that tweet out on 2 Hours No Traffic. People can look at it because it is a masterclass in just idiocy. Because this team has no money.
I wasn't asking if you think it happens. I was asking if you want it to happen.
I think the only way I would want that to happen is if James Harden leaves. Because when James Harden leaves, we only have $8 million in cap space. We have no money. If they find a way to lose James Harden and then somehow bring Kyrie East without having to give up starters, sure, in that magical land, I'm pretty happy about it, but I don't see where that really happens. Now, I mean, if it means they dump the Tobias money and replace that with Kyrie Irving money, I could be talked into that. I mean, I think he makes Tyrese Maxey a better player, but let's live in reality here.
Without mentioning Damian Lillard's name, because I don't know, him to Philadelphia, I don't think you guys have the assets to give Portland.
We don't.
Who's a realistic option to add to the Sixers lineup next year that obviously it's going to be tough to replace Harden's production, but who's a guy that you can see coming in here and just helping shoulder the load with Embiid and Tyrese Maxey?
There's really no way for me to know, unfortunately. I think the only way that we bring in an impact player to close that gap is if you do a Harden sign-in trade, which he's not really motivated to do because, I mean, he doesn't have to. I mean, if the Sixers don't sign him, he can just walk. So the only way we get an asset out of that is if he finds it and it's hard to do a sign-in trade, and then you're looking at probably – I'd have to look at Houston's roster because that's where he would go. But you're looking at maybe a young two-guard. I'm not really familiar with Houston too much, but
they got Jalen Green is the
you're not getting him though, for sure.
Kevin Porter Jr.
I could get on board with Kevin Porter Jr. if that's what they were willing to offer us. Jalen Green's never going to happen. The reason they're bringing in James Harden is because they believe so much in Jalen Green to be part of a big three they would build, so there's no way they move him. A pipe dream would be Jabari Smith Jr., but again, don't think they get off of him either. So yeah, maybe Kevin Porter Jr., maybe Kenyon Martin Jr.
A lot of juniors on that team.
Who?
A lot of juniors on the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, it is. No one else excites me. Frank Kaminsky can kick rocks. Boban Marjanovic is fun, but I don't need him. DJ, a lot of these guys I don't need. So, look, no matter how you look at it, we're going to get screwed. Our only hope next year is DeAnthony Melton turns into a real starting caliber scorer. He's great defensively. He can shoot the three, but our hope is on that roster. Tyrese Maxey needs to be an all-star, and DeAnthony Melton needs to be, at least an efficient scorer. And maybe Tobias Harris can average 20 a game. I'm splitting hairs here. We're a 5 or 6 seed next season.
You know what this Harden situation reminds me of? When you're like craving a certain food, right? Let's say you're craving a hamburger, and there's a place in town that makes the best damn hamburger you've ever had. And you go there and it's closed. And then you have to settle for whatever that second option is, which you know is not going to satisfy your craving, but you're going to do it anyway because God darn it, you need a hamburger. That is this situation. Like no one's going to come in and get you 20 plus and 10 plus assists a game. They're just not going to do that. But like, you're looking for that next best thing. And look, us Nets fans, that's what we went through with our entire roster, right? Yeah. We had the creme de la creme, and this is a great segue, to talk about the new look Nets. But yeah, man, as much as I enjoyed watching Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Nick Claxton, still wasn't the same as watching.
It's not KD, James Harden, Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, a little different.
Actually, you know what? I want to revise my answer. Who is out there who could help this Sixers team in the wake of James Harden? Come on home, Seth Curry. We fired your father-in-law. We want you back. We're going to get to the Nets. At the 10-minute mark, we'll get to the Nets. I was reminiscing on Game 6 Atlanta Hawks series. Sixers lose that one. But you look at the scorecard, and it's 36 points to Joel Embiid. Who had 33 in Game 6 of a playoff game but Seth Curry? And look, he sucks on defense. He's not a great creator. But, man, I got nothing. And I need Seth Curry.
I disagree with the premise that he's not a good creator. I think he can create off the dribble a little bit more than people give him credit for.
I should have specified for others. He doesn't do what James Harden does in the terms of creating shots for guys.
You're right. I just meant, he can create offense off the dribble, off the ball. I love Seth Curry. I was a huge supporter in Jacques Vaughn giving him more minutes. I think that he just got lost on this Nets roster when they acquired 9 million wings, and it was
Yeah.
tough because you had to give Royce O'Neal time. You had to give Dorian Finney-Smith time. Dinwiddie comes in. He's got to get time. Cam Thomas buried on the depth chart, so he's not seeing the court. Joe Harris, you're paying Joe Harris a decent amount of money. He's got to see the court. So Seth Curry just got lost in the shuffle. But out of all those guys I mentioned, I think he's probably the best pure scorer out of all those guys.
Oh, yeah. None of those guys led the NBA in three-point percentage.
Oh, that's not true. I think Joe Harris might have.
You think? He may have. I don't know.
He's up there.
No, he's a great shooter, but I think he got really hot in Brooklyn around the same time Seth Curry was consistently, because he won that award when he was in Philly at one point. So one of his 2 seasons, he had the highest three-point percentage. Nevertheless, yeah, you're right. I mean, he's an accomplished scorer where the rest of those guys have moments where they're dangerous.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. All right, 10-minute mark. Time to get to my Brooklyn Nets. Big news out of Brooklyn is Joe Tsai, Sean Marks, they're going to avoid the full rebuild and try to, I guess, reinvigorate this organization on the fly. News came out that said they were not even considering trading Mikal Bridges.
See, that's interesting.
It is. It is very interesting to kind of put that out there this early in the offseason. As a Nets fan, yeah.
In my head, just going bullet point wise here, he's the reason you might be able to avoid a rebuild. You have a young guy who's worth so many other young assets. He's the reason you cannot have to go through the draft and rebuild. So I don't know how you avoid a rebuild while keeping him in the fold.
I'm not sure I follow. I lost your logic there.
Like, Mikal Bridges is somebody who, if you're a championship team right now, he's not going to be your number one guy, but he's the difference maker between a second-round exit and the championship. He's that good on both sides of the ball. That's the guy you move if you're the Nets to get 3 or 4 young pieces who turn into stars. Like, having a guy like that is the equivalent of 3 or 4 drafts.
Right, but how is that not a rebuild? That's a rebuild. It's 100% rebuild. You're giving away the best player on your roster to get young talent. That is a rebuild.
Yeah, but it's not young projects. It's guys like, D'Anthony Melton is an example. He was buried on Memphis's bench. Everybody knew he could kind of hoop. Like, you're getting guys who this season could pop off. A rebuild to me is you're in the basement for 2-3 seasons going all into the draft. Like, Oklahoma City did a rebuild. I mean, you could do it a really accelerated rebuild, or maybe after a season you parlay one guy into a bunch of starters.
Okay, so let's rewind, because now I have a ton of arguments in your thinking. The Oklahoma City Thunder, when they made the trade and they gave away Paul George and they got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was a very good young player at the time in the NBA, was that not a rebuild?
I mean, for the Thunder, it's weird because they weren't really good at the time. Like, you guys were in the same area. I guess it's more of a rebuild than I'm giving it credit for, but it seems like a smarter way to build a team, I guess.
Nevertheless,
he can't be your centerpiece. Like, he never is going to be your centerpiece.
Okay, so it's funny that I agree with your reasoning to trade him. I wouldn't call trading him not a rebuild. But
I guess
here's my point. I am in favor of the rebuild. I was. I don't like being in the middle, right? The New York Knicks, they are in the middle. They're not great. They're not terrible. Some years they're a 4 seed. Some years they miss the playoffs. Julius Randle is the definition of a mediocre star. He is a star solely because of his numbers and the fact that the Knicks have gotten a 4 seed and a 5 seed in the last few years. Or I guess they got 2 4 seeds, right? Because a few years ago, they lost to the Hawks in the first round as the 4 seed, and they were the 4 seed this year. No, the Cavs were.
Wait.
Yeah, the Cavs were the 4. Who had home court advantage? I think the Cavs did. I think the Cavs were the 4 seed. The Knicks were the 5 seed. Yes, I believe that to be true. Please look that up for me. But my point is, I don't want to be that team.
You're right.
I was right. Okay. So by keeping Mikal Bridges and probably signing Cam Johnson, you're going to have to pay him a lot of money because it looks like Houston's going to probably offer him the world and the Nets are going to have a chance to match it. You're still a superstar player away from being a top 3 or 4 team in the East. You just are. I don't know if you're better than Cleveland if you bring back essentially sort of the same roster as last year. Now,
I don't.
You know, I don't think so either. Obviously, the name Damian Lillard has been floated around. You're going to have to give up a lot to get him if you're the Brooklyn Nets. Probably going to lose Nick Claxton in that deal. And I don't know. I don't know if a Damian Lillard, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson squad is competing for a championship. I don't think they are. So I was of the just overall mindset of, yeah, let's get rid of everybody. Let's get young pieces. Let's trade Clax for young pieces. Let's trade Dinwiddie for younger. Let's just get rid of everybody. And by the way, I think Dinwiddie was on Gilbert Arenas' show the other day. He sounds like he's coming back. So that was kind of a question mark. Obviously, Marks can still deal him, but if he comes back, that's another player that's pretty involved in the offense and what the Nets are trying to do. And he was terrible in the playoffs, right? He had some bad games against the Sixers.
Awful.
Yeah, he kind of faltered. So I don't know. But like part of me is happy at the same time because it's like, all right, yeah, this guy showed up, put his hard hat on, and just went to work. Never complained. And you know, I don't know if you've seen this, Brandon. Mikal Bridges has done some interviews this offseason, and he just sounds like the coolest, down-to-earth, ride or die motherfucker ever. Like he was talking about, you know, he's comparing, you know, his just lifestyle to the Nets with KD and Kyrie. And he was like, hey man, here's what you're going to get with me. You're just going to get a guy who wants to play basketball. You're not going to get all that drama, all that BS. And the funny thing about, I know I'm ranting right now. I'll shut up in a second. The funny thing about KD is KD always used to be like, I'm just about hoop. Like, no, you're not, dude. Like you're about hoop, but you're not about hoop, right? Like you get in, you know, little arguments with Charles Barkley. You know, you call for Sean Marks and Steve Nash's job. You request a trade not once but twice. You were just not about hoop. Don't give me that. Mikal Bridges is.
I believe,
and he right. You believe him. So like, while I'm annoyed that they're not going full rebuild and they didn't try to get Scoot Henderson and that like wasn't on the table. I'm happy that we're bringing a guy back who gave everything to the Brooklyn Nets. Do I think that we can ever be a championship contender with Mikal Bridges as the number 1? No, I don't. But nevertheless, like I'll settle with the 4 and the 5 seed for the next few seasons if he's able to get better and if we're able to get pieces around him.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Joe Tsai team. Like, if you remember the reports, and I don't remember the wording exactly, but when they had all that drama going on with, I think Kyrie was still in the roster when this was said, and he kind of said, he's like, look, we want guys in Brooklyn Nets uniforms who want to be Brooklyn Nets, who want to, you know, do things the Nets way, and which I don't think there really is one. I think only the Heat can really say they have like a Heat way, but I get his idea. Like Joe Tsai was so happy presiding over the Dinwiddie D'Lo Nets. Like that's his kind of team, it feels like. And he kind of has that again with this talented but ragtag group of Nets right now. So I can see why he doesn't want to blow it up. He doesn't seem to be overly superstar friendly. You know, for better or for worse. I think
for worse, by the way. Not every superstar is KD and Kyrie. You should be superstar friendly. So that what you just said is not a great trait for an NBA owner to have.
I don't necessarily agree. Like there's a lot of superstars that don't carry the same baggage KD and Kyrie. Like you had 3 dudes there that have about the most drama follow them around. I mean, add John Morant to the conversation now, but you can get low maintenance superstars.
I mean, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, minus the injuries, don't have any issues. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying it's a bad trait for Joe Tsai to not be superstar friendly because not all superstar NBA players are divas.
Yeah, and I guess it is tough outwardly for other superstars to want to go play for the Nets because of the way he kind of blacklisted the 3 that he had. I think that was because of the people that they were, but again, outwardly that doesn't look great. Like I don't know who the next option would be, who's going to be a free agent, but the Nets, at least for the moment, still being the second show in town. You haven't really eclipsed the Knicks. I mean, they're the four
Right.
seed. You're always in the middle. And also not having an owner who's willing to kind of put up with some of the BS that comes with being a superstar. I think Joe Tsai is happier, whether he'll ever admit it or not, with the team that he has now, rather than a team that competes for championships but has all the baggage that comes with it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I don't know if you saw this a few weeks ago. He was quoted in an article, and I think he meant it as a joke. He was talking about NBA players being hard to manage. He compared them to like actors in Hollywood, I think.
See,
Nevertheless,
you can't say that.
yeah, you can't say that, even if you're joking. And I talked about that on Fireside Nets. I was like, you can't say NBA players are hard to manage because you bought a basketball team.
Yeah. Well, that, and even if you're joking, you can't joke in the papers because they're not going to, no paper on earth is going to parentheses LOL after your sentence. Like, they're going to write it as fact.
That's a good point. All right, one more thing about the Nets, and then I want to move on to this NBA playoffs because we have one team in the Western Conference just waiting for the winner of the Eastern Conference Finals. 2 words: Ben Simmons. What do we think? Is he going to be a major part of the Nets moving forward? I talked about the core of Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Nick Claxton earlier. Did not mention Ben Simmons' name, and for all intents and purposes, he's still in net. He's working out. He's looking good. He's in Miami. Do you think that he can be a major part of what the Nets are trying to accomplish in these next few years?
No, but look, he's already there, and his value is so low around the league. His value is below the hope that he may one day be a glimmer of what he was in Philadelphia. I think that Ben Simmons is gone. I think his confidence, his psyche is so shot that you're not going to get the Ben Simmons we got where it's 15, 7, and 8 and a second team all NBA defense. Like that Ben Simmons is gone. But for what he's worth on the open market, it's worth it to you to come back and hope, look, maybe he's not a scorer. Maybe he never is. Maybe he's 6 points a game. But maybe he's 6 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. That moves the needle.
So you're betting against his psyche. You're betting against him returning to being a confident player, an all-star.
I'm thinking, now look, if he's ever going to do it, it's going to be with this iteration of the Nets because the stakes are lower than they were with KD, Harden, and Kyrie. Even though I know he never played with Harden. But even if he plays well during the regular season because the stakes are lower, when you need him eventually, or if you get to a place where you need him, he's still going to crumble. That is just a part of his mentality. So you might get a fun regular season out of Ben Simmons where he's playing free and loose. I happen to think Mikal Bridges isn't going to tolerate any of that shit because he's such a hard worker. I don't think those two get along. But you're not going to get anything for him. So see what he has to give you. Maybe he's a defensive specialist. Maybe he's the point guard you need when Dinwiddie's making dumbass decisions because he's worth 0 anywhere else.
Yeah, if anyone has experienced Ben Simmons to a T, it's you. The one thing I'll say from a basketball perspective, if you start him and Nick Claxton, that's 2 guys that can't shoot anywhere outside the paint. So that kind of limits your offense a little bit. But defensively, if you start those 2, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and Dinwiddie, that's a pretty good defensive unit. I digress. I do want to get to
I always forget about with your team. I'm so used to because when Ben Simmons was in Philly, he had all these shortcomings, but spacing, it was one of them, but Joel could kind of overcome it because he had that mid-range game. I do forget that Nick Claxton he's Ben Simmons. I mean, the skill sets are eerily similar. Ben's a much better creator off the dribble, but other than that, I mean, the same offensive skill set.
You have 2 big men, and both of them can't shoot. So
yeah,
it's tough. It's tough. It limits you offensively, and it makes you pretty one-dimensional. All right, I want to get to these playoffs. Let's start with the Nuggets. They beat the Lakers, clean sweep. Jokic was unbelievable. Jamal Murray had a great series. The Nuggets role guys stepped up. Bruce Brown, former Net, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, he looked good. Aaron Gordon had some moments in that series. I don't think I'm surprised at how good the Nuggets have been. they've never really fully been healthy. And this is a team that has experience playing together. The chemistry's there. They have weapons that come off the bench. Bruce Brown is an excellent sixth man. And I just think that they just overall, they outmatched the Lakers, both talent-wise and experience and chemistry-wise. So what was your reaction to the Nuggets sweeping the Lakers and Jokic just being incredible?
I mean, I wasn't surprised at all. I didn't think the Lakers really deserved to be there. I didn't think now look, they got there fair and square. Nothing was weird about it, but you got to figure. I mean, out west, you got the Clippers missing two superstars. You got the Suns playing 20 minutes together. Like it was an easier path out west. Denver was always clearly the better squad. And I'm happy for Nikola Jokic as much as some people in Philadelphia hate him, which I don't get. I mean, the narrative is one thing. I thought that was really toxic, but Jokic is a great dude. I mean, he's come out in support of Joel Embiid on several occasions. Jamal Murray's had a brutal 2 seasons between being injured, coming back, not being himself. But if you remember back to the bubble, he had those epic battles with he and Donovan Mitchell where you think, man, this is the future of the point guard position in the NBA. So it's really exciting to see him, I would say, back to that 2020 level of himself. I mean, he's a certified superstar in the playoffs. So, look, out east, I think both teams are going to have a really hard time handling Denver. Denver's so complete. They're so deep. They have stars at both levels. So I wasn't surprised at all they swept LA. I thought LA were pretenders, and Denver looks even better than I thought they would be.
So it's funny because a lot of people are saying that we're all noticing Jokic now that the playoffs are happening, and we should have been watching him all season in the last 3 seasons, essentially, shit like that. The one thing that I've learned in this postseason about the Denver Nuggets is I fucking love Mike Malone.
He's a great coach.
Hell of a coach. You know what makes a good coach, Brandon? So the Nuggets win a close game in game 1, right? They're winning for most of the game. LA makes a push at the end. Nuggets are able to pull away with it. And, that narrative that, LA kind of figured out the Nuggets. You put Rui Hachimura on Jokic, whatever. Then the Nuggets go and win game 2. Like, easily. And Michael Malone talks about how everyone picked, against the Nuggets and how everyone thought the whole media had the Lakers getting a moral victory in game 1. He made the Nuggets sound like they were the underdog. We're talking about the 1 seed in the West playing the 7th seed in the West. And Mike Malone talked about them as if, they're just some underdog piece of crap team that everybody counted out. And I bet that he relayed that message to his players. And that is what makes him a great coach, right? Why do teams that have high seeds fizzle out in the playoffs? Because they lose that desire. It's why Milwaukee lost. It's why Philadelphia lost to the Celtics. It's why the Grizzlies lost to the Lakers in the first round. Some teams can't get out of bed for the playoffs. It doesn't matter how good you are in the regular season. And I do think that's on the coach when coaches can't get their guys up to show up. You've seen it with the Celtics in a few games against the Heat. But for Malone to get the Nuggets to show up to every single game against one of the greatest players of all time in LeBron James and win 2 on the road in LA when the last thing LeBron James wants for his legacy is to be swept. That's the last thing he wants. He would have been fine losing in 5. I just, I've absolutely fallen in love with this guy. If I could snatch him away from the Nuggets and bring him to the Brooklyn Nets, I would do it in a heartbeat.
I mean, yeah, and look, most of the time I think I'm kind of different. Most of the time I think that's the narrative is corny. Like, there's a lot of teams, and like you'll see, college sports is way worse about it. But whenever Georgia or Alabama wins a national title, it's like, look, no one expected us to be here. No one thought we all thought you'd be here. But in Denver's case, they should feel disrespected. They were up 2-0, and the narrative was, can LA steal 2 in Denver? Like, no one talked about Jamal Murray's balling. Nikola Jokic looks unstoppable. It was, can LeBron right the ship? What lineup in LA is going to work? Like, no one gave a shit about Denver. So in that case, yeah, I think it was the right message. They should feel disrespected. I think basketball coverage as a whole from ESPN has been pretty dismal, to be honest. It's the Lakers and then whatever team the Lakers are playing, even though it's the number 1 seed in the West, generational talent, all that good stuff. So I think they had every right to feel disrespected, and they played like it. The finals is going to be a little bit harder, unless they see the Heat, in which case then it's just a dream matchup, and I don't know what to say.
Forgot to shout out another player with back injury history like Ben Simmons. Michael Porter Jr. has been very good for the Nuggets. He's hit some timely threes. He's had some nice rebounding games in that Western Conference Finals. Love his game. Think he's just going to get better. He's a young guy too. You talked a little bit about the media and just narratives being stupid, and it's a great lead-in to the Eastern Conference Finals. Miami's up 3-1. Boston pretty much saved their season in Miami in Game 4 in that third quarter. It started with Tatum. He hit back-to-back threes, and then all of a sudden the Celtics flipped the switch, and the defense was back. The offense was flowing. Marcus Smart was hitting shots. Jaylen Brown was being aggressive again. But here's where I just freaking hate ESPN, dude. They win the game. They're down 3-1. All of a sudden, it's like, Yankees, Red Sox, 0-4. Uh-oh. Yeah. We've seen this story before. Watch out. Boston can win 4 straight.
Yeah. They didn't get swept. Throw a parade.
I get it. You want storylines to be bigger. You want more people to listen. But when Mike Greenberg goes on Get Up and he's just like, I told you guys, the Celtics are the better team. I think this series is up for grabs. It's like, bro, who are we kidding? They're not winning 3 straight games. And if they do, you can bookmark this clip, send it to me, and call me a freaking idiot. But that's not going to happen. So they got to stop with this. The Heat have 1 out of 3 chances to win 1 game. I don't think they're going to blow that. Coach Spoelstra, right after Mike Malone, he's probably my second favorite coach. And a lot of people think he's the best coach in the league. You think he's really going to lose 3 straight games? He's not going to do that. Jimmy Butler's not going to do that. So
no, it'll never happen.
With that Celtics comeback garbage, yo. The Celtics had a great season. They should be proud. Mazzulla, nice year as the first year as a head coach. Is he as good of a coach as Ime Udoka? Probably not. I think we all knew that though.
No, you're right. There was Joy Taylor had a really great clip on I think it was the Fox affiliate, like the Fox equivalent of Get Up. It's called Speak or whatever. But it was awesome when it was after. Miami had just gone up 3-0, and they asked Marcus Smart, what's the mindset like? What are you guys thinking? Don't let us get one. All I'm saying, don't let us get, bro. Shut up.
Well, I mean, timeout. When it's the players, all right, I can forgive that because they have to say that. What do you want them to say?
When that quote came out, you just got beat by 30. You didn't play in the fourth. Like, if you're going to talk tough and be like, don't let me get one. No, the tone after that game should have been, look, we dug ourselves a hole. We got to execute to this. Look, after you win one, different story. You start talking your shit, whatever. You can't start throwing out threats to the team that's up 3-0 after they just beat your ass by 30.
See, I disagree. After the game in the press conference, the mood was like they outplayed us. They kicked the crap out of us. If you watch Jaylen Brown's press conference, that was essentially how you should react as a human being when you get the crap kicked out of you right after that. Yeah. That next day was when the Marcus Smart quote came out. And there was another, I think Jaylen Brown said the same thing. I think there were 2 or 3 guys on the Celtics. And they, I think they went to Topgolf that day and they like bonded as a team. I have no problem with the mentality that the Celtics took being down 3-0, saying, don't let us get one. Don't let me get hot. It's like when you're down like 9-0 in pickup or in one-on-one with your friend and you hit one shot and you're like, boy, don't let me get hot. You're probably going to lose the game. Probably most likely. Yeah. But you need to say that. You need to at least have your friend thinking, what if he does get hot? It's a mental game, right? Now they won one. Marcus Smart said, don't let us get one. They got one. What happens if they get 2? So from that standpoint, I'm okay with it. What bothers me is the media losing their minds over a 3-1 series because, they think that sports fans desperately want to come back like this. And we don't. Nobody wants
Miami. The whole East Coast wants Miami.
Exactly. Everyone wants to see Jimmy Butler against Nikola Jokic, right? We want to see the best in the league against the best competitor in the league. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun series. I don't think Miami stands a prayer in hell, but I mean, it'd be fun if they get there. I love Jimmy Butler. I'd love to see him get a ring. But yeah, and it's weird. I know this isn't the norm, but there was a sports book that was still listing Boston as the odds-on favorite after going down 3. I know we were talking about the disrespect to Denver about the media covering the LA, like all the LA teams and stuff. Dude, Eric Spoelstra just has notebooks of motivational material to use for the Heat. Because even up 3-0, Jimmy Butler, the media loves. No one gives a shit about the Heat nationally. I'm a Heat fan at the moment. But
did you hear what Jimmy Butler said after the loss?
yeah, he was like, we're going to go back. We're going to hang. We're going to have a couple beers. We're going to get our heads right. And we're going to be fine.
That's how you react after a loss like that. I thought that was just a very classy response. And I want to just highlight the fact that the Heat have been playing incredible basketball this postseason when nobody thought they would do anything.
Without Tyler Hero, without Vic Oladipo.
Right. And you have a guy in Gabe Vincent who's stepping up, and he has looked really good this series. He had a behind-the-back pass in that Game 4 loss. That was like Chris Paul, Rajon Rondo-esque. He's been great.
Adebayo, big series.
Caleb Martin's been fantastic. He's going to get a bag in the offseason, man. He's a scorer. Bam Adebayo.
He got cut by the Hornets. Think about that. Cut by the Hornets.
That's crazy. Adebayo always seems to get better in the postseason. I thought he's been phenomenal in this series.
Duncan Robinson resurrected.
Him and Max Strus have been up and down. For the most part, they've been good, but there hasn't been a night I think where they've both been on. Lowry's been pretty good for the most part. He had a bad Game 4. And who am I missing? That's pretty much it, right? As far as guys we're going to give credit to who get playing time for the Heat. Oh,
yeah, I mean,
Caleb. Kevin Love.
Minutes, but yeah.
Love's been hitting some shots. Yeah,
I wanted him in Philly so bad. I mean, that's when not that he would have moved the needle either way, but I mean, just the fact we chose Dwayne Dedmon over Kevin Love. Yeah, like I said, he's a role guy at this point. I'm happy for him. He can hit the 3 now and again, but I would have rather had him up here.
What's your prediction for the rest of that series?
I'm trying to think where they're at. I'm gonna say it gets fun. I think Boston might take another one, and then Miami wins it in Game 6 when they're back home.
I'll say Miami closes it out in Boston. I think that Butler's going to have his guys ready. Spoelstra's going to have a game plan. I think the defensive intensity is going to pick up to the point where the Celtics can't do what they did in that third and fourth quarter, which is basically Tatum scores every few, 2-3 straight possessions, and then Derek White hits an open 3, and then Marcus Smart hits an open 3, and then Brown gets an and 1. I think you're going to see, Adebayo and Butler really lead this unit defensively and put the clamps on Boston. But we'll see.
You're thinking the Heat take the Doc Rivers approach to closing out series and just don't play with your meat?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, you're being sarcastic.
No, that was a real quote. In it was Brooklyn Game 3. We narrowly won, and his message to the team was "Don't play with your meat." And then someone had to correct him and say, "I think it's supposed to be don't play with your food."
Ironically, Doc Rivers, Twitter was hacked a few months ago, a year ago. I don't remember when it was, but it exposed some content that he might have been playing with his meat too. So.
Yeah, I'd like to think it's a hack, but he never really.
Yeah, you'd like to think that way. I mean, he's not your coach anymore, so it doesn't matter. He can be hacked or not be hacked however much he wants.
That was an awkward phone call with Seth and Austin Rivers, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's tough. Anyway, this was a good episode. We covered Sixers, covered Nets, covered NBA playoffs. If the Heat and the Nuggets play in the finals, who are you pulling for?
Heat, absolutely, 100%.
I'm pulling for the Nuggets. I want to see Jokic get one.
I get that. I mean, I think personally, I'm slightly tied to Jimmy Butler. I'd like to see him get it.
I get it. All right. Thank you guys for listening to 2 hours, no traffic. I'm Spen Harris. He's Philly Brandon. Tune in next week.
Peace.